Okay, so this is the camera simulator. I'm just gonna run through the settings really quickly, but just pay attention to, you're watching this exposure meter, and you're trying to get this line it's under the +3 right now. I want to get it in the center, and that'll give us a perfectly exposed image. So if I take a picture right now, say extremely overexposed, you can see it says very overexposed. You're letting too much light. Good for a good shallow depth of field. Stop invisible motion. So, and then it tells you, well, you had one, and it tells you 2.8, and it says ISO 100. So just notice if we take a picture, you can see it gives you an idea of what you've done and what to do to get it to look proper. So we're basically controlling the aperture, which is the opening hole of the lens. Okay, all this is kind of new for some of you, but just this is your introduction. So try not to you don't get too caught up in it. Just try to see them, and if you find an interest here, again, you should take a class. Okay, so notice that the propeller is spinning, and that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to pay attention to. So motion and timing and exposure and lighting, they're all things that we're working on. So it has some motion, so that's good. And so we're going to be trying to stop that propeller. We're going to be trying to blur it so we can't see it. And then we're also going to work on focus. And you can see right now it's showing the background out of focus and the foreground's out of focus and the airplane's in focus. So we're kind of playing with that a little bit. You'll notice that these things will sort of show you, if I bring this shutter speed up, you can see that the picture effect shows the propeller almost still. And if you bring the shutter speed all the way down, you see it's blurry. You'll see that if you change your aperture down really low, you see the back little thing gets out of focus, and you bring your aperture way up, you can see they become all in focus. And then our last setting is the ISO setting. And if you drag it all the way forward, you can see that the image here of this person gets really there's this white noise. And if we bring it all the way down, you get less noise. And again, it's kind of showing you over here as well, like what's going on. So if I click on this, you see it's showing me also the motion, like you're in between, so it kind of centered, and same with aperture. So this is a great opportunity to learn these basic settings of a camera. So I'm asking you to make 3 pictures, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start. I'm going to do the first one, which is disappearing. So I was at, let's go 16. I'm going to go 1 second so it looks like it's really blurring away. And then I had the ISO at 100. So this will be a really clean image, but this will give me the maximum effect for the blurriness. Okay, so I got 1 second exposure. And I click on this little thing and make exposure. And as you can see, the propeller seems to not be there, so it's almost gone. The other thing you notice is because I have a middle exposure, or middle setting on the aperture, that most stuff is in focus, right? It's kind of almost everything in focus. So let me just close this, and then we'll go to our next setting, which is going to be to try and stop the cameras or stop the propeller. And there's more than one setting here, but you'll notice when I want to stop it, I want to go all the way over. Notice I have to go all the way over, but look at the exposure now, right? It's all the way -3. So I have to kind of play with this to get that to move, but it doesn't move at all. So here's where ISO comes in handy, where I'm gonna have to bring this thing up. In fact, actually, see how I don't even get an effect until it comes over there. Now I can drop this down and get I can change the aperture, but then I have a problem with things getting out of focus. If I want things to kind of stay relatively in focus, I might need to bring my ISO all the way up. So let's just say I want to keep things relatively focused. But what you're going to see is we're going to get a lot of noise in the image. Okay, take my picture. And like you see, the propeller is totally stable, right? But and the focus is okay. Things are still out of focus, but I'm getting a ton of grain, right? So this is a grainy image. You can see all these little dots in there. That's what we would call grain, and that's a high ISO. Okay. So in low light situations or where you're trying to stop things, if I really want to stop something, I need a flash or I need a lot more light. If I have a lot more light, then I can bring this ISO, the sensitivity of the camera, even smaller. So I don't know if it mentions, try decreasing. Remember, high doesn't tell you to add light, but that's the idea, is to add light. You want it to bring this lower. I'd have to add in lighting. If I have like a flash or something, I could put my ISO lower and then I could stop this. So you'll notice in like sometimes in sports, people have like big bright flashes to stop people in the air. That's one reason why we might do that. So that's that setting, and then I'm just going to do the last one, which is I want to try and get the image as clear. So I'm going to try and like get the graininess out. So I'm just going to bring my ISO all the way down to 100. I want to get this mid-focus. So notice that I'm bringing my aperture, and it looks like a lower number, which is actually a larger hole in the camera. So this will give me the airplane will be the most in focus. But notice my exposure meter is not showing, so I'm going to have to move this around. And you can see that in this case I'm taking a pretty slow exposure. Okay, and there we go. So it didn't stop the propeller, right? I didn't ask you to stop it. I just asked you to get the most out of focus, the most in focus, and I want this to be the cleanest image. So I don't want there to be noise when you take this shot. So you can see that there's some images you just can't take here because you don't have control of the light. And if you had control of the light, you could do more changes, right? So that's always the thing. That's why taking photography is lighting is such a big deal, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. And now you can see we have these 3 images. So I'll just quickly come out, click on one. What I did is I just right-clicked on this. I just said Control or right-click, Save Image As. I have these Canon shots. I'll just call this one. This was, don't actually know. This was the focus one. I'll just call this focus. I'll just call it Canon focus. Close that one. And then we'll do this one. This was Canon stopped. So that's the propeller stopped. And then this one, oh, that was stopped. And then this one was the propeller disappears, right? It's almost disappeared, right? So I'll just right-click and Canon disappear. Might be misspelling that. Done. And then we can turn those in. Okay, so cool. I'll end right there.